Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time. So let me introduce myself. I'm Uday. I've been a part of Rubrik since last 6 months. I take care of channel pre-sales for the entire region. And I've got my colleague Vikas over here. He looks after the GSI business pre-sales primarily for the whole Asia Pacific region. So we are not here to show you any boring PPTs or show you presentations. This is going to be more of like an interactive session where you get to sit in the hot seat. I'm sure a lot of people here are already CEOs, CISOs, and other important roles in the company. Here you'll get to play a role in an actual scenario which might have been adopted from a real life scenario which happened with an organization. It's going to be simple. We've got 5 scenes. Scene 1 and 5 are going to be played on the screen for you. And then since we've got 2 teams over here, let's call this team A and team B. And you've all got these booklets, right? So let's say we start with scene 2 for this team after the video is played, and then scene 3 here, and then scene 4 over here. All you do is you see these titles right in front of you, right? All you do is read those when your turn comes. And I'll be the narrator for this team, and then because probably you can do it for the other one.
Yeah. So it's very simple. What you need to do is you've got your booklet with you. So if your title says CIO, when the CIO turn comes, you need to just narrate whatever is written in the book. And that's what we are going to practice today, right? Sure. Are we ready?
Yeah, and
Any questions till now?
what we are trying to get out of this is because not everyone gets to be a part of a situation where you face a ransomware, right? And especially companies, if they face a ransomware attack, it's normally not a public news. So how often do you actually get to sit in that hot seat and in that situation room, right? We're trying to simulate that situation so you get an idea of what really happens in that case, how fast things go down the hill, and how tense the situations are, and how, because teams are working in silos, right, in companies, there's legal, CEO, IT, storage, how difficult it becomes because everyone thinks I'm doing my job right, but then when it comes to a ransomware attack or a cyber attack, you actually see the things more clearly, and that is what we're going to see, how chaotic situations are.
हाँ अरे जो मैं हेड काउंट बता दूँ नंबर्स के कैसे करना है अकमाई का हमने फैसिलिटेट करके किया था इसीलिए बैलेंस करने के लिए कैसे करना है
अच्छा यहाँ पे you called and
इफ़ यू वांट देन वील डू इट आई हैव डन दैट टुडे फॉर अकमाई क्योंकि उनका भी ओवरशूट कर गया था
okay, so then what did you do? Give me a proper idea.
Enterprise is a marvel of efficiency. Every transaction, every shipment, every customer interaction is a seamless flow of data orchestrated in the cloud. The business is the application, the database, and the cloud services that run them. But what happens when the cloud that powers it all falls? We are inside the IT Operations Center, a room that is usually quiet at this hour. The team is starting a shift that is about to become anything but routine. The first sign of trouble appears not as a single critical alert,
Hey, Alex.
but as a chorus of discordant data points.
Can you look at this?
Yeah.
The write latency on the primary EBS volumes is through the roof, but read IO is completely flat. That's weird for a Sunday morning.
Well, yeah, you're right. It's not a DDoS attack. External traffic is normal. I mean, we haven't even pushed the new code since last Friday. It's like a single process, just keeps writing over and over. What about the S3 buckets?
Checking now. Oh, wow. I'm seeing thousands of API calls per minute against the critical buckets. Put object, delete object versions.
Oh, let me see. Since the object names, they're all being rewritten. There's a new suffix. Locked. This is not a runaway script. This is hostile. This is an active attack.
You're calling early. What's going on?
We are under active attack. I'm seeing what looks like mass encryption across our core S3 buckets. I'm also getting high IO alerts from the primary RDS instance now too. I mean, the customer-facing websites, they're throwing 503 errors. I mean, this feels coordinated, and it is moving incredibly fast.
Define coordinated. What are you seeing in CloudTrail? Is it one IAM role being used? Multiple? Is activity coming from a known IP range or something external?
CloudTrail is flooded. It looks like thousands of unauthorized SSEC encryption calls originating from within our own VPC. I mean, they aren't trying to pull data out, they're encrypting everything in place. GuardDuty is lighting up with alerts for unusual activity from a single EC2 instance. A QA server I've never even seen trigger an alert before. This is bad. You're inside.
Start a log dump to a secure, isolated account now before they can purge them. Use the out-of-band management network, get the CIO on the line, and initiate a major incident management call for the entire crisis team. I'm on my way in.
By 6:30 a.m., the first members of the crisis team are online.
Give me the situation report. And blast radius is not an answer. I need application names, business units impacted, and a preliminary assessment of potential data loss.
It's a sophisticated ransomware attack, and it appears to be centered on our US East 1 region. We've confirmed active encryption on the EC2 instances hosting the web front end, the S3 buckets that hold all our process data for BI and analytics, as well as the primary RDS database that manages inventory and logistics. We've also found a ransom note in the root directory of a dozen servers.
Let me be clear about what that means. If that RDS instance is compromised, the stores are operating completely blind. The handheld scanners in our warehouses that associates use for picking orders are effectively bricks. The system that optimizes truck routes for daily restocking is offline. The point of sale systems can't even validate gift card balances or process returns correctly. From in-store staffing to deliveries and inventory intake, we have to assume every single digital service that touches a physical store is either down or about to go down.
Yeah, this isn't just a website outage. This is a direct, decapitating strike against our core retail operations. I mean, the East Coast stores are scheduled to open in less than 90 minutes. I'm activating the full incident response plan. Get the entire crisis team assembled. I need the CISO and the general counsel on a call in the next 15 minutes. We need to decide if we even open the stores.
Just to reiterate, we can't just reboot the servers. This isn't a hardware failure or simple outage. This is a hostile takeover of our environment. Every move we make has to be deliberate, or we could accelerate the damage.
All right, so would anyone like to kind of summarize what's happening in the scene one? Anyone would like to give a try?
So, as a summary of scene one, it seems like analysts identify or monitor, while during the monitoring, they identify an active attack, and as a result of the initial analysis that this attack is ongoing. Okay, so once the attack is confirmed, then they involve all the stakeholders, all the respective people who are responsible to take initial actions, that what exactly is happening, what is going on, so that they can confirm that this is our next piece of action we have to take. And they have to analyze that what will be the business impact we have. BIA should be done as a part of the next questionnaires, and they have to involve all general counsels for the legal and other actions to be taken up.
So what you mentioned was right, and then it's a retail company. That means they've got stores which will open in less than 90 minutes. And if it's a retail shop, what happens? Your customers who are walking in, if you can't do billing, if you can't manage inventory, your revenue stops, right? And with every single passing hour throughout the country, it's millions of dollars of loss for the company, right? So that's what's happening over here. Okay, so let's start with scene 2 for team A.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'll play the narrator's role, and then the head of cloud operations, CISO, and other people take over. So I'm starting my role now. So this is 8 a.m. Eastern. The first store on the East Coast are attempting to open their doors amidst chaos. The full crisis team, including the CISO, General Counsel, and the line of business leader is now assembled on the emergency MIM call. The atmosphere is thick with tension as the team tries to understand the full scope of the attack. Over to head cloud operations. Please sit down. That's okay, sir.
Our forensic analysis of the logs has given us a clearer picture. The initial point of entry was social engineering. They called the IT help desk and got credentials for a standard employee account.
CISO, sir.
Standard account, how did they escalate from there? Our internal segmentation should have continued.
Yeah. Head of cloud operations again.
It should have. But from that account, they scammed our networks and found a single unpatched QA server. They exploited that to get access to the misconfigured IAM role attached to the instance, a piece of technical debt we never cleaned up.
And that misconfigured role, what did it allow them to access?
Enough to compromise one of our cloud admin accounts, and with that, they took over our identity provider. It was a chain reaction of human error followed by technical oversights. Once they controlled the identity provider, they could move anywhere. They had the keys to the kingdom.
So the control of our SSO, they could get to the retail role, the RDS database.
Operation analyst.
They did. That role gave them complete control over the RDS database. They also deployed scripts using SSEC server-side encryption with their own key across our most critical S3 buckets. It's a nightmare scenario because it makes recovery from versions or replicas impossible. The forensic also shows they were in the R environment for weeks. Exfiltration, data, low and slow and hold time. They didn't just log our data, they took a copy first.
I just got off the phone with the regional manager for the Northeast. Customers are abandoning full shopping cart at the registers because the manual checkout process is taking over 20 minutes per person. The media has picked up on it. We have local news vans outside 2 of our flagship stores. Our stores managers are asking for permissions to close. The damage to our brands is happening in real time. On live televisions, based on our hourly revenue rates, we are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars an hour. This is an absolute catastrophic.
So now the time is 11 a.m. Eastern. The situation continues to deteriorate.
We have an update. Our external security consultant is now engaged. Based on the attack tactics and technique, as well as the specific ransom note, our external consultant believes with high confidence that this is a work of scattered spider.
And I can confirm that after consulting with the FBI, we are established contact with this group through the channels they have provided. The demand is $4 million payable in Bitcoin. The deadline is 3 days from now.
We are not paying. This is what our disaster recovery plan is for. This is why we have backups. Head of Cloud Operations report on our recovery posture. The EC2 instances are recoverable from AWS backup. What about the S3 data?
That's the core of the problem. While we do have backups for a portion of our S3 data, for a critical share, we have been relying on versioning and cross-region replication. As you could imagine, versioning is not a backup and is specifically does not protect against this attack vector. Since the attacker used SSE-C to re-encrypt every version of every object with their own key, the objects are there, but they are indecipherable to us. This replicates in other regions are just copies of the same useless encrypted objects.
This is unacceptable. Who signed off on a policy that left our new stores data so vulnerable?
It was a decision made during last year's capital allocation review to reduce cloud storage cost across the board. The risk was documented and formally accepted, with the understanding that versioning would mitigate accidental deletion. Nobody anticipated an attack of this sophistication.
How much data are we talking about, and how bad is the S3 data loss?
It is a severe loss. All operational data, POS and sensor logs, and clean BI data assets for our entire fleet of stores opened in the last fiscal year. A full year of our company's growth have been effectively wiped out. It's almost like these stores have never been in operation.
So the main call ends. The operation analyst leans over to the head of cloud operations analyst.
My team filed 7 tickets over the last year about inconsistent backup validation and coverage gaps in our cloud environment. They were all deprioritized in favor of new feature development.
Head of operations.
Those tickets, document them and keep the file ready.
So this is the end of scene 1 in a way, which is in this scenario, scene 2, because we played the video first up. So what do you see here, sir? I think CIO was talking about backup is there, right? What's the difference between a backup copy in a DR situation vis-a-vis ransomware attack? Can anyone enlighten me with that? What's the difference? Backup is there. Obviously, everybody keeps backup, right? But what's the difference between having a backup copy in case of ransomware attack vis-a-vis DR?
In the DR, the copy is going to be the day-to-day thing that you're taking up. But in a ransomware attack, if the attacker has been in the system for some time, it's possible that the data that's being copied is kind of encrypted and probably useless when you want to restore it.
So basically, what you're trying to say is, and let me just rephrase it, sir. You're trying to say, in case of a ransomware attack, I do not know whether my last copy is a good copy.
Correct.
In case of disaster recovery, it's very evident that I can just restore from my last known good configuration last. Now, this is
Unless the backup system that you have is an immutable backup system that is there, which can prevent against ransomware.
You're not from Rubrik, right?
No.
Because that's what we do, and we'll talk about that later, because we don't want to talk about the product here. But as he rightly said, the whole thing here is that when you have a ransomware attack, the most time goes in identifying which is your best copy that you can restore from. Now, first thing is that you need to identify, restore it, scan it, and see if it works fine. And then you productionize it, right? So that's the biggest time that is taken. Now, RTO is very valid for a DR kind of a scenario, very valid. But when it comes to ransomware, we call as rubric is CRTO, which is Cyber Recovery Time Objective, which is where the whole picture comes in, that what is my best known copy that I can restore and use it for the production, because I don't want to be in a loop where I'm restoring something, scanning, and then I learn, oh, it's not the right copy. Then I keep going back. So this is the thing. Anything else?
Yeah, and one thing if you notice, they mentioned the attackers have been inside the system for weeks. So they don't really know when. And you rightly said, right, immutable backups could help. But if the attack happened maybe 20, 30 days ago, that means they were already in the system and we were actually backing up infected data. So immutability doesn't really help us there, right? So to add to what he said, you can't just rely on immutability and DR because you could be backing up infected data and restoring it would just reinfect everything and you'll just lose out 2 to 3 days in the whole process.
So I would like to understand, everybody knows about immutability here. Anyone who wants to know about immutability, because it shouldn't be that we are talking about some term which is not known to anyone. Anyone who doesn't understand immutability? Cool, yeah. So basically, sir, it's a way when you write any information, any piece of digital data on piece of, let's say, storage, it cannot be changed. It's like next time, even if you add a dot to that, it would be written in a separate place. So you cannot change the original copy. So that's the whole point. It's immutable. You cannot change it. You cannot alter it. You cannot add it or update it. All the changes would go in a separate place, which would be a separate version. So original one would stay that way only. Thank you.
Just like old times, right? Rewritable CDs and cassettes. You couldn't write on some.
I have one question. Yeah. Even if we have a immutable backup copies, right? So as we just said that it's a 30 days an attacker in the system, right? So it might be possible that from the last 30 days, we are continuously copying the data and in itself, we are creating a separate file for every copy, right? Whereas the previous data remains stable. So at that point of time, how our approach will work? Because it's possible that we can lose might be of week or 2 weeks data.
Absolutely.
In the new copy.
That's where there are two things here, right? One thing is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, that is where your EDR, XOR kind of things comes into the picture, right? But when it comes to ransomware, cyber attack kind of thing, what you need is your last line of defense is your backup. That should be perfect, right? Now, as you said, it could be that the attacker was there in the system. But what if he just blasted it 3 days back? If I know my 3 days, maybe 4 days copy is good enough, then I'm good enough, right?
Solution is able to...
We're not going to talk about solution, Doc. It's not about solution. It's just about feeling how the ransomware attack goes in. That's it. Product, there's enough time to talk about that. Right now, we just want to feel how it looks like. You want to start with the second scene now? Yeah. So, you going to play anything? So what are your thoughts on the initial point of entry? They clearly mentioned it was an unpatched QA server. From there, they got a compromised identity, from which once you are in using phishing or social engineering tag, you can always find some service account, some user account which is running on a very basic password like admin1, password kind of. And from there, they must have taken. Now, I want to tell you one of the strange truth right now. Last year's Microsoft report talked about they get 600 million attack every day on their identity and access management system. So that is concerning. Imagine 600 million attack every day. I think it's a very huge figure, like maybe 600,000 attacks every second kind of. So that's what it is. So that is one thing. What does the chain of failure exploited by the attackers tell you about enterprise security? Anyone wants to give it a try? So we talked about chain that you use, unpatched server, identity compromise, and things like those, right? Uday? Yeah.
That's fine. You already answered that. Yeah.
Again, nowadays, people are doing less of ransomware, more of identity-based attacks. Because if you can't get into your system, that's it. I don't need to do anything. You can't even get to your systems, leave about recovering from them. So this is what we are seeing. What are the implications when an attacker compromises a company's identity system? Gone. Everything is gone. And majorly, Microsoft Active Directory is the biggest culprit here. it's a Windows-based system. Secondly, once they kind of compromise it, restoring it a forest level or a domain level is a big task. It has a 50 pager manual. You have to go 20 step one by one. Even if you miss one step, you have to start again. And that is to be done for each and every domain. Imagine a single company has a number of domains generally, right? Another thing is, what we are seeing as a company is that most of the time, on one user ID, there would be 10 non-human IDs which are there, service accounts and things like those. So these accounts are very critical because they are running your mission critical servers and all.
One might think this company is a big retail chain company, right? They might have a lot of endpoint security, user security, network, firewall, everything's in place. And plus it's in the cloud, right? One might think Amazon and everyone is protecting everything, right? How does an attack happen? If you look at it, it's a very asymmetric warfare. Attackers have to be right just once, but the organization who's trying to protect itself has to be right 100% of the times, right? So you saw the last match, right? Rohit Sharma was playing really well. All it took is one good ball to take him out, right? So it's just that one wrong ball that takes an organization down is what I'm trying to say.
I think the fourth question is very important. What do you think about where the ultimate responsibility for cyber resiliency lies? See, we are talking about resiliency, which is different than cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a due diligence. You want to talk about, sir? Sure. Yes, sir.
600 million attacks happen every day. So, like, which attack is critical to handle? How to identify? Because human cannot handle in a day 600 million attacks. Hardly they can see 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 maximum. But what solution Rubrik is providing to handle those critical attacks? Or it can be a false positive also.
We don't provide any cybersecurity mechanism, sir. We are a data protection company. We are a data resiliency company. The cybersecurity lies with Palo Altos of the world, Zscaler of the world, CrowdStrike of the world. What is cyber resilience means is, in case of an attack, you should still be able to bounce back and bounce back in a very systematic manner. So we are not a company which provides cybersecurity. We are a company which can give you a guarantee that in case you run into a cyber incident kind of, we would make sure that you can restore from the data that we have backed up. That's the whole point. So if you see, as Uday was saying, the cyber breach is not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's a matter of when. Now, resilience means that you are ready for that attack. You basically are prepared that if it's going to happen, then what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do, 1, 2, 3 kind of thing. How I'm going to make sure that my minimum viable company, my minimum viable bank, my minimum viable hospital is available for people to kind of experience it. Uday, next one? Yeah. Shall we start with scene 3? Yeah.
So scene 3 will be with this team. I think everyone has got their own roles, right? Pass on the mic.
Yeah, I'll do that. Please start.
Yeah, so the time now is 9 p.m. on a Sunday evening. The teams in the IT operations center have been working for 15 hours straight. The initial shock of the attack has worn off, replaced by a grim, bone-deep exhaustion. The mood in the room is heavy with the weight of finding a path to recovery, as every attempt so far has ended in failure.
Operations analyst. I've mounted the 10th EBS snapshot from our backup vaults. I'm running a deep forensic scan on it now, but it takes nearly an hour to scan each terabyte. At this rate, it will take us days to validate the backups for a single critical application. We are looking for a clean needle in a mountain of infected haystacks.
I know it's slow, but we have to be certain. They were in our environment for more than a month. They knew our backup retention policies better than we did. They waited until they knew their malware was replicated across all of our recent restore points before they launched the main attack. We are not just fighting the encryption, we are fighting their 30 days of reconnaissance.
This is completely manual, hit or miss process. Our backup tools have served us well for operational recoveries, but I am only realizing now that they are greatly lacking in dealing with such sophisticated attacks. They were never designed to withstand a direct malicious assault by an attacker with administrative credential, and they can't tell us which backups are safe.
Operations analyst. Wait, I think I have something. an EC2 snapshot from 2 weeks ago, just before we believed the main malware was planted. The initial scans, they look clean. The rootkit signatures aren't there.
It is a risk. It could contain a time-delayed payload that our scanners are missing. But it's the best lead we have had all day.
It's the only shot we have. Let's do it. Kick off the restoration process into a new completely isolated VPC. What's the ETA?
If we push it, and if everything goes right, we can have a test environment of our core application up by midnight.
It's your turn. Uday.
The time now is 1 a.m. on a Monday morning. For the first time in nearly 24 hours, there's a flicker of hope in the room. On a monitor, the core application is initializing in a clean environment.
Application support manager. We're back online. The application server is up and the database is connected. We're running the first test transaction now, and it worked. Wait, no. The dashboard has died. The CPU utilization is pegged at 100%, and the file system, I can see it's happening now. The files are being cleaned.
How is that possible? We scanned the snapshot. It was clean.
The malware must have been dormant. It was waiting for a specific event, a connection to the database, a specific API call. It was a time bomb, and we just triggered it. Shut it down all. Terminate the instances now.
The time is 2 a.m. The brief moment of hope has utterly extinguished. On the video conference, the faces of the CFO and the general counsel appear. They look grim. The CIO has to deliver the bad news.
CFO, I will get straight to the point. The financial consequences are severe. Our financial modeling for Sunday showed a loss of over $1 million. Our stock is projected to open at least 8% down, which represents close to $500 million in market capitalization. Are you telling us that only viable backup has just failed and we are essentially back to square one? Time is of the essence here.
Yes, AEO. It was a significant setback. The attack is more complex than we anticipated. The team is now working to analyze much older restore points.
CFO, I appreciate that we are all understandably tired and that your team is working incredibly hard. While I value your technical explanation, my primary concern is that the company seems to be in financial free fall, and that's worsening every hour. To put it bluntly, what is the plan here?
While you formulate one, I must inform you that we have received another email from the attackers. They have seen our failed recovery attempt. They are raising the ransom to $6 million now. They feel they have the upper hand. And legally, they might. The story is now being picked up by the national news outlets. We are losing control of the narrative.
All right, thanks. So in the interest of time, I'll summarize what happened, right? They found one snapshot that they thought might be clean, and they tried to recover it. The junior analyst says it takes me a lot of time to scan these because you can't just scan backup copies. You need to first restore them. Restoring one snapshot takes a lot of time. Then you scan it, that takes more time, right? So they've already lost, let's say, 24 hours doing just one iteration of this process because they don't know which backup copy can be trusted. Now they find one backup copy and they try to recover it, and there was a dormant malware setting inside it. Because there was no way of finding it out, this dormant malware then unpackaged itself again and then launched an attack again. That in turn, and this happens, attackers, they know people have offline backup copies, they'll try to recover it, and then all that happens is once this malware unleashes itself, it's waiting for some call like API call, or when a machine boots on, it will re-encrypt everything, and then the attacker is now going to kind of double that ransom. So meaning they were relying on backup copies thinking they are clean without actually knowing that they're not, because they don't have a robust way of finding out which is the clean backup copy. And the news has now hit everywhere, right? It's in the media, it's with investors and everyone. They're not only losing out revenue, but the company's valuation is also going down day by day and by the hour, rather.
So if you see, one thing is ransomware. They knew that you tried to restore and they got the message and that they increased the ransom. Now on the identity side, what happens is they might have created thousands of fake IDs so that they get a backdoor. They change attributes because generally when you call help desk for your change of password, they would ask you your phone number or some information. So attribute changes can happen as well. GPOs, group policy objects can be changed. So not just ransomware side of things, but on the identity side of things, they make sure that they have doors open to get into the system again and again. So we're going to start the fourth. See now? Okay. So it is now Tuesday afternoon, more than 48 hours since the attack began. The company's stock has plummeted by more than 10%. So they were saying 8% was like $500 million, it's 10%. The recovery efforts have been a brutal, demoralizing slog. The team now knows the attacker were inside their system for at least 36 days. The Cyber Incident Response Manager has called a critical meeting with the IT and legal teams to address the scariest question of all. What exactly did the attacker take? So now, okay, I just want to stop here. I just want to say that it's not just ransomware or encrypting your data. They're exfiltrating data as well. So it's a double whammy for them, right? So over to you, sir.
Yeah, we need to get to ground truth on our data exposure. The integrity of our S3 inventory is now in question, especially considering all the data lost data. The legal team needs an accurate inventory of the compromised S3 data, specifically what type of data was in those buckets. We must know if we are dealing with a data breach.
I have been running a deep scan of our S3 environment, trying to reconcile our inventory with reality. I am running a rigorous search for PII pattern across bucket, manifest, and object names. The problem is many of these buckets don't have data classification tags, so I am flying blind.
What are you seeing?
I am seeing files name Q3 reward member full dump.csv and loyalty test data prod sample.json. The file name themselves are screaming PII. And worse, our S3 inventory is a mess. It shows 920 S3 buckets in our production environment. My deep scan has found 965. There are 45 buckets that are completely untracked, unmonitored, and unbacked up.
So the group reconvenes late Tuesday night with the general counsel and CIO also on the call. The mood is grave.
The untracked buckets, they appear to have been spun up for the customer loyalty programs that was in development last quarter.
The customer loyalty program, you manage that project. What are the data scheme for those development buckets?
It was a development environment. It should not have had production data, but to properly test the new predictive models the development team may have, they may have pulled a sample from the production customer database.
I can confirm they did. I decrypted a single file from the proof of life sample the attacker sent us. It's a CSV file from one of those untracked buckets. It contains over 1 million records with full names, email addresses, mailing addresses, and date of birth. This is personally identifiable information. This is now officially a data breach.
I need to pause everyone for a moment. This discovery fundamentally changes our legal position. The moment PII was confirmed, we moved from a business continuity crisis to a major regulatory and legal event. We likely have 72 hours to notify the California Attorney General under CCPA. We have other notifications, deadlines in every other state and country in which we operate. We need to retain outside counsel specializing in breach notification tonight. We need to establish a budget for credit monitoring for every customer in that database. The cost of this incident just grew up by an order of magnitude, and that is before the class action lawsuit begin. Does everyone understand the gravity of this situation?
So this is the end of scene 4. So if you see, major takeaway is blast radius. They want to know what was breached, what was exfiltrated. Now that is one thing. Knowing what was the personal identifiable information that was breached is another thing. So you you don't just need the backup information. You need to understand what was exfiltrated, what was my sensitive information, and where that sensitive information was lying in an open area or without encryption and things like those. So this is critical, guys, right?
Yeah, and one might think data security and user data, PII, breach of these pieces of information is more of a US or a UK problem because it wasn't much seriously taken in India, right? But with the new DPDP law that has come up in India, for one single incident, the fines can go upwards of around 50 crores. And if a company doesn't take measures to prevent these attacks and incidents from happening, it can go as high as 250 crores. So it is a problem that, not a problem rather, the government is doing good to ensure customer data is protected. But in this case, because a lot of companies use DLP and data classification tools, but these tools run on their production. After an attack happens, they don't have access to their production, right? So when press, media, investors, news media, they ask, what's the impact, right? What data was exposed? How do they answer that? Because their production is down, they can't give an answer, right? They can't see what's there in production, so they can't give an answer to what's the impact. And that is why you might think, why is a backup company talking about DSPM and data classification? So we'll talk about that feature when we talk about the product. But the key takeaway was, when an attack happens, a company must be able to answer what was the impact to sensitive data, what was the exposure. And it's not just ransomwares anymore. It's called double extortion, where attackers not only encrypt data, but before doing that, and it was mentioned in one of the scenes, they were inside the system, they encrypted the data, but before that they took a copy. And that's how they uploaded a sample where the customer can see that, okay, they actually have sensitive data, which they can then put up on the dark web, sell it off, which again has a lot of repercussions, right? Customer trust is gone, and then fines, litigations, and all those things.
So I think in the interest of time, if you see how did discovery of PII exposure changes the nature, because now you're not in a company-wide panic. It's a regulatory thing as well, which takes you like kind of other side of the domain. I would like to understand, they were asking like $6 million, right? What do you think the total damage is going to be like? Any guesses? Any vague guess?
It depends on the number of records.
So, we don't know, sir. I'm just saying, he was asking $6 million. They were running into losses because of their stock was plummeting. It was like 10%, right? Which is like $500 million, which is like $500 million. They're just asking for $6 million. What do you think it's going to be like? No, I'm talking about figure. But it's 500 million, they're already saying $500 million is gone because of stock. So in general, let's unfold it.
It's more than what attackers want. It's ransom they ask, right? Plus the loss what they faces during the outage. Another one is the legal.
But I'm just asking for quantifying, because obviously these are ripple effect of that. Regulatory.
So it's approximate 30-40% of the overall.
Let's see.
19 losses and public humiliation. The company's leadership is now assembled for a final, agonizing decision.
So a full clean rebuild of our environment from the ground up will take at least 3 weeks. Given the sophistication of the malware in our backups, that is the most realistic estimate.
Direct revenue loss currently stands at $3.4 million. Our projections show that we'll continue to lose nearly $1 million for each additional day of significant outage. We're hemorrhaging money by the day.
I must advise, in the strongest possible terms, not to pay these criminals. It's rewarding their actions and funding their next attack on another company. We get a decryption key that might not even work for data that we're gonna have to scrub and validate for weeks. This doesn't get us any of our data back, and it absolutely doesn't remove the attackers from our environment. it paints a giant target on our back for every ransomware group on the planet. We have to rebuild. It's the only way to be sure we're clean.
Rebuilding is a fantasy of control that we can no longer afford. Your clean rebuild will take a month, and in a month there won't be any company left to secure. We will have lost massive shares of our revenue, our brand reputation will be in tatters, and our stock will be worthless. Look, I get it. Principles are important, but they don't keep the lights on.
From a legal standpoint, our situation has fundamentally changed. We're no longer just managing an outage or mitigating liability. The single biggest quantifiable risk we face is the public leak of that PII data. Our CISO is correct. Paying the ransom doesn't guarantee that the attackers won't leak it. However, refusing to pay it makes it a certainty. They will leak it to maximize our pain and make an example of us. The reality is, paying the ransom is our only leverage, however small, to prevent that outcome. More importantly, we must be able to demonstrate to the courts and regulators that we took every possible step, however distasteful, to protect our customers' data after the breach was discovered.
The general counsel's right. From purely a financial perspective, paying the $6 million, as painful as it is the only move we've got. You know, it's an ugly but necessary transaction to ensure that we stop the financial hemorrhaging. It's the only business decision on the table.
They were right. The security team, the operation analysts, they told us our backup strategy for the cloud was flawed. They told us we needed better visibility into our data. We deprioritized the projects and the funding to meet the deadlines for new features. We made this choice months ago. Not in this room, not today. Now we're just paying the bill. So I agree with the CFO and the general counsel. We have to pay.
Then it's decided. Authorize the payment. And the first non-negotiable line item in next year's budget will be a complete overhaul of our data security and cyber resilience strategy, to be led by the CIO's office. This will not happen again.
For the record, I'm formally objecting to the payment, but I have advised on the legal rationale for doing so.
So, would anyone like to summarize? Yeah, so they've given up, right? They found out that they can't restore. If they want to rebuild everything, it's going to take them a month. After a month, there won't be a company to save, right? So they've decided to pay the ransom finally. And they know the risk. If they don't pay because of values and all, they would definitely lose data, and the data would be out, customer data would be leaked. But even if they pay the ransom, still there's no guarantee that the attackers would give them the encryption key and they'll get access to the data. But then they're taking the only option that they have, which is paying the ransom. And they discovered, because they were prioritizing other things, feature releases, they didn't really pay more attention on data security. And now they're just re-strategizing and hoping that it doesn't happen in the future. And what also happens is, when companies get attacked, the attackers, these are just freelancers, right? Most of them, young 20, 23-year-olds, and you can hire them on the dark web to attack an organization. Once they find the vulnerability, they also spread it across. So a lot of times companies, if they don't change their strategy, they get re-attacked within the next 10 to 12 months. So they've taken the right decision, at least, to make sure they change their strategy and make sure it doesn't happen again. Rather, if it happens, they have a way around to come back from it rather than paying the ransom again or losing out millions.
Another thing is, if you see, people are worried about zero-day attacks, but I can assure you, the deeper concern should be the existing attacks which are there, because that's the way they already have into your environment. So zero-day attacks is a major concern, but they have to work really hard to do that. That's why I'm saying that ransomware attacks are on, let's say, not declining, but identity attacks are becoming the major thing today.
I have a question.
Yes.
Maybe anybody can answer in this group. So we had this.
So we had this clean EC2 snapshot, which are 2 week old, and using that we actually brought up the application up, but there was a dormant malware which triggered once again. The question that I have for anybody who can answer this is that while setting up and bringing up the infrastructure on a clean environment, if we could have run the security test to ensure to clean and test and clean that if there is any malware sitting on that thing and then connected to the live in this thing, would that have prevented us from this thing?
There are multiple parts to this answer, sir. First thing is, there are sophisticated attacks where if it is not connected to the network, it would not activate. So you might be doing it in an isolated recovery environment, which is absolutely out of, let's say, network, right? It would not activate because it understands that you're testing it. So first thing is that you have to restore it. Restoration is still easy, but I can assure you a single VM, if you're doing a scan on that, it might take 24 hours, just a single VM. Imagine if you got 500 VMs. I'm just talking about Indian perspective, but big companies in India might have thousands of VMs. So it takes a lot of time. So those attackers are smart enough to understand when you're going to run it in an isolated recovery environment, it would not activate. It would only activate once it has the networking capabilities with other application to talk to, and that's where it gets activate. Now, another thing is, most important thing here is that you should be able to know first of whether it's free from malware or ransomware or not. Because if you have that surety, then restoring it and checking it is much easier rather than if you do not know anything at all. So that's the answer. I don't know if anybody wants to add on to this. Cool. So you want to take?
Yeah, I won't take long. We've already discussed what current challenges are, and you might think there are already backup solutions that people are using, right? We've seen in the scenarios why those backup solutions were not able to help this organization. They could not find out what the clean copy is. They couldn't locate what sensitive data impact was, right? So these are some 4 questions, those where companies generally get stuck when they are facing a ransomware attack or a cyber attack. This is in terms of a legacy backup solution. All the backup tools which were built in the late 90s or early 2000s were built for a different purpose altogether. They were built for accidental deletion, corruption, flood, fire, etc., right? So when an attack happens, assuming your backup tool has survived that attack, these are critical 4 questions where companies lose out on a lot of time, like that scenario we saw, right? Where they don't know answers to these questions and they really have to do a lot of trial and error. For example, what's the scope of the attack? Maybe out of 2 petabytes data, only 20% was impacted. If I know that answer, I don't really have to restore everything. The last scene said they want to rebuild everything, right? Assuming everything has been breached. Point of infection. The attack there happened probably 30 days ago. But if we know the definite answer to when the attack happened, then we can find out what the clean copy is. Sensitive data impact, we spoke on it extensively. And then finally, we want to find out the actual malware, which could be sitting on endpoints, on clouds, SaaS, identity, or even deep inside your hypervisors. Your EDRs and antiviruses, they scan the endpoints. But there are malwares which have been sitting deep under data stores on your hypervisors as well. Your EDR doesn't have insights into it, right? So you need something that goes beyond your traditional preventive tools. And this is the problem that we've solved. So what Vikas was saying, right? Why does it take that long? If you look at it in a workflow model, when an attack happens, they don't know what to restore. They'll select some data piece, try and restore it to a clean room or a sandbox. That takes time, 10, 12 hours maybe. Scan it using some antivirus or some scanning solution, that takes another 10, 15 hours. Why does it take that long? Because it doesn't understand context. It has to manually calculate all the metadata, file hashes and everything for those files, compare it to its own signatures, and then determine if it's clean or not. If the attack happened 20 days ago, you can't really find the clean copy in one go. You'll probably do at least 15, 20 iterations. Every iteration is costing you at least a day or 2, meaning you're down for 30 days, right? And that is how we've solved the problem. So we'll talk about the solution for just 5 minutes. This is something that we can't finish and cover in 5 minutes, but if you want to have a detailed discussion, maybe we can book another 30-minute session separately and talk about these things. So this is the key difference of how we've architected our solution, and this is how a legacy backup tool works, where it's a 3-tier architecture. There's a backup tool, which may or may not be on Windows. They have media servers, catalog servers, and so on. And all it's doing is it's consuming the storage, NAS, SAN, tape, whatever it is, over open network protocols like NFS or SMB. The problem here is full trust architecture. Just like the scenario, right? The attacker was inside. There was an account which got compromised within the organization. When that happens, once an attacker has the keys to the kingdom, they can technically take down the backup tool, storage, network. They've got free hand, right? And how we fix that is by creating an appliance which has like a bunker inside it. A file system which is custom made, which cannot be read, accessed, or mounted using any of the open protocols. And on top of it, we've built our own native data threat engine. Now, you'll see data and metadata together over here, and here it's different or separated.
So I just want to give you a brief perspective about it. Every backup architecture considers the inside firewall or environment to be trusted environment. So when an attacker is inside, first thing they would do is they would attack your backups. That's the first thing they're going to do. Now, in our case, any file system that you have generally works on 4 things. CRUD, which is create, read, update, and delete. Our file system doesn't have update button, so it's an append-only file system. Append-only file system means that if I write anything, it has to go in a separate space. So whatever I've written would be there. Anything that I'm changing is going to go in separate. I just want to give you a very brief perspective what we do. When we talk about native data threat engine, what we are doing is when we take the backup of anything, we create a hash of each and every file and object. I hope hash everybody understands. So hash is like a small value, that this is the value when I am transferring this file from one place to another place. So I want to check the authenticity of that file, that whether it has changed or not, I see the hash. In our case, we do it by natively when we are backing up. And that's where it creates the major differentiation. We as a company, if we have, let's say 100,000 backups, 1 lakh backups I'm talking about, within 60 seconds, I can tell you those out of those 100,000 copies, which copy is malware free and which one is not, which one is ransomware free, which one is not, because we just need to check those hashes against the, let's say a ransomware note left by the attacker. Because if the hash value has changed, we would know that file was attacked, updated, or ransomware in it. So these are the basic thing. And this box of ours is a black box for any one of them, because we do not use open protocols, we do not work on SMB, CIFS. So the backup would be coming to write it, but once we write it in our own way, and nobody can read that from there.
So just one question.
Yep.
So you are telling from hashes you are identifying whether it was infected or not.
Yes. Yes.
So how comes? So let's suppose when you are taking the backup, so at that point of time, let's say malware is part of the code. So when you will take the backup, the hashes will be, the hashes that will get stored. So from that you cannot identify.
Yes, I can identify. How I can identify is, let's say if it's not a 0-day attack, then I have signatures. I can check for that. I can do Yara and hash together. That's one thing. But if it's a 0-day attack, then obviously nobody would know. Neither cyber security company, no. But when I'm backing up, I would not let other backups get, let's say, compromised by that. Append-only file system means if I have a backup, which is already, let's say I took a backup which was all right yesterday. Today the attack happens. That attack would not compromise my existing backups. That's what the guarantee we give. We give a $10 million. No, that's what I'm saying. So let's say yesterday there was a clean backup. Today, no, I would know that. That's what I'm saying. I would know that.
This question is before the attack got identified. You'll be taking backup.
Yes.
But that has a certain hash value.
Yeah.
How will you identify that this is
I'll answer that question. Here's how we do it. So there are 2 things over here. One is threat monitoring and one is threat hunt. Okay, and just like any other antivirus or security tool, we take feeds from
Mandiant.
Google Mandiant. So Google Mandiant is publishing new IOCs, known threats throughout globally, right? That's feeding us information in in Rubrik Security Cloud. So once we take backup from any of your workloads, right, SaaS, NAS, data center, whatever it is, we calculate the metadata and we do continuous threat monitoring based on Google Mandiant feeds. So that's about looking for signatures for existing threats. Okay.
Nowadays, whatever security tools we are using, they are taking security feeds from all the, best companies.
Yes.
I'm coming to that. Zero-day attacks, right?
Not zero-day attack, so it will be your, if see, signatures are, in place when something has happened in the past. From that signature get.
No, no, sir. So if I take a backup, so first of all, I need to have a baseline. I would not take a backup today and tomorrow I'll tell you that there's an anomaly in the backup because I don't know the trends, right? So over a period of time, which is like 2 weeks minimum, 14 days, if I am taking a backup of a file system of a file, if on 15th day there's an attack happens, I would know if there's a pattern of the file change.
No,
Because when do encryption, the file hash value would change, sir.
No, let me rephrase your question. I think what he's trying to ask is, if there's an infection or a known IOC already in the market, these tools would have already found it, right? Identified it. You're right. In that case, but see this, when you're using a backup tool, ideally you're just taking a backup copy, and these tools identify 99% of the attacks, but known attacks. Now, let's say something slips through, a misconfiguration, a machine which is unpatched, vulnerable, which was not protected. Scenarios happen, right? Even in the situation that we saw in the scenes, they had everything patched, they had segmentation in network, they had done everything. So that is one thing that we compare the known threats, but the most important thing is zero-day attacks.
My point was that from hashes, how you are identifying whether the backup is,
No, sir, when we take a backup, the hash value is created for each and every file. When the attack would happen, like a ransomware, it would encrypt the file. Now, if you need to check whether how many of my backups, like what copies of my backup are encrypted or not, how would you know? You'll have to restore. How would you? I'm saying that is what we can do. We can check that which snapshots, copies are bad or not bad. That is what I can do because I check it.
that can be done in normal way also.
How would you do it? Tell me.
No, if somebody is taking the backup, they can calculate the hash value. It's a simple.
Nobody does that. That's what I'm saying.
So they do it
That's
post
what I'm
facto.
saying. That traditional backup vendors not doing it. That's the whole point. Yeah, but it has to be a fundamental change in your system because the code that you have written is traditional way. Now you cannot even to do that hashing, you need to change your whole code. That's not possible because then you have to stop selling that code for some time. So that's the difference.
So when you take a backup, every day or whatever is the frequency, you create a hash as well.
Everything.
Yes, and create a catalog. Yeah, correct.
In Mandiant.
So his question was, if you are taking a backup, imagine that there is a malware already there. It has not been activated. It may activate maybe 6 months later, right?
That's fine.
So that data which is going and you are creating a hash is already infected backup, right?
No, sir, having malware is not infection. Having malware is not an infection.
What they are telling now is, if someone has
tampered the backup,
so that is okay. So that is even.
that can be done manually, right?
So zero-day attack would be.
Keep the hash value, then maybe a check if it is changed. If the backup is changed, the hash value will change again.
So hash value is one thing, YARA rules are second thing, and the signature as well, IOC signature. So we do it all the ways. And anytime Mandiant gives you a fresh signature, we check all the backup using that hash or scan value.
I got it. So you're saying before you take a backup, create a hash, you do all the validation, YARA,
Absolutely.
and all those, to
And
ensure that it is malware free, known malware free, right?
yes, yes.
Yeah. 0 day.
If it's a 0 day, then we can do threat hunting. That's what I was talking about. So threat hunting is, if there's a 0 day attack, I can tell you using that signature, within 60 seconds if there are 100,000 copies. That's what I'm saying. So before that, regular threat monitoring is always going. That is for the known IOCs. If it's a 0 day, then we do threat hunting. And anomaly detection is not something that we do just, we see the pattern of change in the file. That could happen. We do a pattern of change, then we do the entropy scan by going inside the file and checking it if there's something wrong. That's it.
Yeah, here I have one question.
Yes, sir.
What I understand is you are saving N minus 1 by doing the appendix, right? So you are creating different volume. But how are you ensuring that the data which has been backed up and which has not been exploded from the ransomware scenario is not infected? Because that you might have gone ahead with creating a version N plus 2, 3 and 4. But when from 3 onwards it's infected. And it will not come till that time is not there to get those things, how do you manage that?
that is a zero-day classic example, right? Because none of the security vendors, no one has yet classified it as a, or identified it as a malware, right? Or an infection. So yeah, you're right, we'll be backing it up, and our copies will also have copies of infected data.
If I create a 3 different version and I do a remote backup and keep it in a separated, isolated way, it's as good as having it in your environment.
No, but how would you identify which copy is clean?
So anyway, you are also not able to do it.
No, we are.
We
No,
are
I'm
able
coming
to.
to that.
We are able to.
We are able to.
So see, suppose if I'm backing n plus 1, right, which is going to get infected after 60 days. The payload is there, but it is not activated. So are you saying that you will identify that payload before 60 days?
Yes, because once.
No, no. Answer me. Will you be able to identify the payload which is there in the backup copy and which is not activated and it is going as part of the backup? Will your system be able to identify?
Yes, if it gets classified as a, if that signature is
Yes.
recognized as a malware globally or through Mandiant or your security team.
Anyway, other EDR or other software which we use to prevent is anyway doing it.
No, how are they doing it in zero-day attacks? Let's say, your point is valid. Let's say something infected our systems. It's been 20 days. Your EDR didn't detect it. That's why it got inside, right? No, what are they? Let's complete this question. I'll come back to you. The infection happened today. It's been 20 days. None of your EDR solutions detected it. Are you saying they detected it after 20 days? Is that the scenario?
The question is, see, now when you talk about the EDR scenario, so my payload is in the stealth mode, it is not activated. None of the system will be able to detect that.
Correct.
Yes.
Now, when it explodes, when it gets activated, then only whole things comes.
No, sir. There are two things here. When payload is there, if it's a known payload, we would know it because we are doing threat monitoring regularly. We would be, if it's a zero-day one, then we'll have to check what signature, because they would always leave a signature that this is my signature. Then I would be able to run a scan on all the 100,000 backups or 30,000 backups or 10,000 snapshot to see for that scan shot. Most importantly, I would be able to tell you what was the blast radius. If it infected only 30 servers, I just need to do it on 30 servers.
And what about the telemetric data? So I understand when you talk about the IT data, but what about the OT telemetric data, like sensory data?
So sensor based we are not doing right now. We do file system and all. Sensor based is not. Though we are working on agentic AI kind of thing, where we recently launched the rubric agentic cloud. So what we are doing is, let's say you've got agents, we can govern, we can monitor, and we can tell you what they are doing. We can even rewind what wrong things that they have done. So it's like three-way thing. One thing is separately the file system backup, IT, traditional IT. For the agentic AI, OT sensor, there's a separate thing where we govern and monitor and tell you that what changes are being made, and we can rewind that as well.
What is the baseline for that when you talk about what changes has been done? Like for the sensory data, there's no pattern, right? It's either 0 or 1.
You create those classifiers.
So that's what. So do you have any framework for that?
Framework in terms of what?
The baseline.
Yeah, so HIPAA, CCP, all these known frameworks are already there, but you have an option to create your own frameworks as well, depending on you classify what's sensitive for you. When we take a backup, we then classify it as sensitive, non-sensitive. And since you spoke about EDRs, right, let me talk about this for a second.
Yeah.
So you see all these integrations, right? Zscaler, Palo Alto.
That's okay. If it's
Yeah, so these are not just integrations. We're actually feeding information back into these systems and helping them work better. I'll give you one example of Zscaler. We have DSPM, right? Data Security Posture Management. When we take a backup, and based on classifiers created by the customer, we classify data as sensitive. Now, when we see a sensitive data hit, when we hit that criteria, right, we feed that information back into Zscaler. Because Zscaler over there now has context about the data that's going through it. Let's say it classifies one file as sensitive based on inputs that we fed it. Now it's going to block that file from going through. So we have similar integrations with all these 4 EDR and security tools as well. We're not replacing them, but we're making them more efficient.
And the whole point here is, sir, we are not cyber security company. We are saying that data that we are backing up, we will make sure when you need to use it, we would be able to tell you whether it's good or not. And secondly, we guarantee that if it's backed up by us, we will make sure that you can restore it. That's the whole point. Sure. I think if there is anything else, we are available here. We would be here tomorrow as well. We should share our contact information so that in case you have any query or you want to understand anything, just let us know and we would be happy to assist you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we can't cover everything today, but there's so many different stories that we talk about in every single workspace over here. This is our core value proposition, but then we have very distinguished features that we provide in NAS, identity, and even cloud. So we can talk about it more when we have a, huh? अरे आप तो फिर customer
So
already.
we would have a booth tomorrow. So if you guys are around tomorrow, you can ask us deep down questions. We can show you the demo as well. In fact, we have a rubric explore. If you just type it in the browser, you would get all our 67 solutions that you can click through and experience it. How DSPM works, how anomaly detection works, how threat monitoring works. So tomorrow there's a booth, and we would be there. Let us know if you want to be there. Thank you.
So, thank you, Uday and Vikas, and thank you everyone. I will take a minute, if you can get the lights on. We'll do a photo op with all of you together, and there are some goodies that Rubrik has planned for you. So if I can request all of those, okay, before that, everybody has signed this, this sheet? And not signed, basically given your information that you have attended. Huh? We'll, that's okay. So, okay. Cool, I think we have a quorum. So can we request everyone to join in? Take a group photograph. Christine, you can plan the goodies once they move. Yeah, yeah. You should have your backdrop. Uday, you can have your backdrop. I doubt. Is it happening? Doable? Or shall we just chuck the plan? I think this video camera will